Hello all, I'm F. Merlin Rodrigues and I welcome you back to the part 3 of our Unit 4, Elements of Writing. In part 1, we saw the introduction and we learned what is meant by rhetoric. It is the art of communication and there are different rhetorical modes. In the second part, we learned in detail about the first rhetorical mode, narration. And this part, we'll be doing with description and illustration. First, we will learn about description. Ability to describe things, people, or events is an important skill in communication. In life, as well as career, you are likely to come across many situations when you are asked to describe something. For instance, if you witness to an accident or a fight between two people in the street on your way to college, the investigating officer would ask you to describe these incidents. If the people involved in the accident or fight disappeared from the scene, you may even be asked to describe their appearance. Description involves presenting information in a manner appealing to senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste, and creating an impression in the reader or listener. Descriptive writings can be made vivid and interesting by presenting them in an appealing manner. In descriptive writing, what stands out clearly is perhaps the attitude of the describers to what they describe, their perspective or worldview. Therefore, descriptive writing most often contains elements of subjectivity. What you found to be tasty, beautiful, soft, sweet, warm need not necessarily be the same for another person. However, you can also give an objective description, keeping your personal likes and dislikes aside. In objective description, writers would not mention how interesting their observations were. Their aim is to bring out an exact picture of the subjects they are handling, without adding personal evaluation of their merits or qualities. Most writers of description try to achieve a level of objectivity in their description, but it is not always possible to be completely objective. One of the ways to achieve objectivity in a descriptive writing is by adding illustrations, photographs, or any other kind of visuals. Subjective description, on the other hand, is predominantly personal. In subjective description, you are giving your personal impressions on the subject you are describing. For instance, if you're asked to describe the place of your birth, you would do it probably thinking how attached you are to your place. Here, your emotional attachment to your place is reflected in your writing. The same place would be described objectively by another writer who is not attached to the place. So, while you are selecting this descriptive method of writing for your academic works, you have to choose between the objective approach or the subjective approach. Objectivity is emphasized in assignments in science and social science subjects, whereas impressions and reflections are encouraged in writing lively descriptions couched in figurative language. You can achieve objectivity by using a direct factual language with lesser figurative or connotative significance. Make sure that you don't use subjectivity if you're advised to write a descriptive writing. Here are some general features of a descriptive writing. Depending on your assignment, you may write a full-length descriptive essay or integrated description, another type of essay. Integrated description means you can use any other illustrations or photographs in your descriptive essay. The next point is there are two types of description as we have discussed earlier, the objective and the subjective method. So according to your assignment, you have to choose between the two methods and you have to start writing. Next one, the dominant impression or effect serves as a thesis of your descriptive writing. A thesis statement in a descriptive writing can be explicit or implied. Another point, arrange your description in chronological or spatial order. Spatial means based on physical position. You can also arrange them in the order of most important to least important. Yet another option is that you can also arrange things in the order of their appeal to different senses. Use sensory details of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. This would enable your readers to create a mental picture of what is described. Another important point is use active verbs to create a lasting impression. What is an active verb? An active verb is when the verb is clearly the subject or the doer of the sentence. So when we use active verbs in a sentence, it becomes more lively and engaging. The last important point you have to remember is use figurative language only if you are permitted to be subjective. Figurative languages like simile, oxymoron, alliteration, or metaphor can be used only if you are asked to write a subjective description. Now, after listening to this lecture, you can try writing a descriptive writing on several topics like your village, describe your village, or your place, birthplace, or your dream, etc. So you can write and practice. Now let's move on to the next rhetorical mode, illustration. Illustration is a rhetorical mode aimed at explaining something with examples. Your general statement in an essay can be clarified if you use proper examples or illustrations. If your instructor asks you to write on the problems faced by a city in disposing its solid waste or the hazards of solid waste, you are very likely to use photographs of piling waste in the streets to explain a point. A photograph can be used as an example in an illustrative paragraph or essay, as it would give a clear idea about what exactly you are trying to explain. While in a literature class, if you want to explain the way metaphor is used in poems, the best way is to show lines from the poems containing metaphors. Similarly, your assignment on the demography of a particular region can be made clearer if you utilize graphs or charts containing statistical data. Therefore, an illustration essay is also called as an exemplification paper, as you use a lot of examples, graphs, charts to give or add more information to the illustration or the essay you're writing. Here, see these two sentences given here. A number of ragging cases were reported on the reopening day in the college. Now look at the second sentence. For instance, 5 final year students barged into first year class and demanded money from students and warned the first year students to adverse consequences if they reported the matter to the principal. The first sentence is a statement and the second is an example. This pattern of exemplifying each statement is an essential characteristic of illustrative writing. A statement can have more than one illustration. Sometimes the whole essay can be built on a major statement, the elaboration of which follows in the form of examples throughout the essay. So some of the common features that you have to keep in mind while you write an illustrative essays are as follows. An illustrative essay presents a controlling idea or thesis, the illustration of which is done using examples. So giving a lot of evidence or examples, statements or charts or graphs is the first thing that you have to remember here. Next one, use of specific and appropriate examples to explain statement and to support generalization. Make sure that you use appropriate and the specific examples, keeping in mind the audience to whom you are writing this essay. Depending on the discipline you are writing the essay for, you can use illustrations with images, graphs, charts, or even photographs. Examples are organized using a proper method. If more than one example is used, arrange them in the order of their importance or type. You should also remember to use transition phrases or illustration phrases. Phrases like, for example, for instance, specifically, that is, to demonstrate or to illustrate can be used. Hope you understood what is meant by illustrative writing. Do check your textbook to practice on this illustrative writing. There are several topics given in your text. So today we learn two rhetorical modes, description and illustration. So we will continue learning the next rhetorical mode in the next class. So see you in the next class. Thank you so much.